But before we start this presentation, a couple of words about the speaker, about myself. So I'm more than 13 years in IT, which is 5 years working in a consulting. And I work together with Roman Kolachak, who is our host today. And I always tell this joke, and the reason why I stay maybe with Roman for such a long time, body to body, is because when I came to Softserve, he was on vacation, and there was the only computer left, was unattended. So I was sat at his computer. Well, that was the policy at the time. Now we have laptops, other stuff issued immediately, because we are a 4,000 people company. At that time, it wasn't like that. Maybe I got some virus of Roman Kolachak, and I'm still working with him in Paris. And for the more than 2 years, I'm doing a product management at Softserve in the form of solution management, pure product management, technical product management consulting, and other related things. And as Pavel mentioned, that the product manager is either in flight or on a meeting with a customer. So I like flying, so I spend more than 500,000 kilometers in the air, which is more than 25 trips to the United States and other stuff about myself. So if you want to talk with me more, find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, and other sources. I'm more than happy to communicate with people, because that's what people exist for. No? Okay. All right. Quick, straight, and important question. Who works in outsourcing? Cheaper, okay.
Time to market.
Effective.
Good.
Shortage of talent.
Excellent.
Mitigate risks.
Good.
You hate that project.
That's even closer to what I want to hear.
Your core business.
Very nice. Well, let's take a look on the main company that this company wants to outsource. It's a very, very, very high level map of the company, as it looks like. Very high level. There's no other there's no finance, nothing, because we're not interested in that. We have strategic product management, which is like visionaries. We have vision. That's what Pavel was telling about. A vision, right? So you know what to do. You may know not how, but you know what. And you have sales and marketing. They push everything to the market. They hunt. They sell. You have a technical product management layer, or you may name it differently, but they digest what strategic visionaries produce. It might be requirements management, business analyst, TPMs, and other roles here. And of course, we have engineering. Engineering is doing what they have to do. They create the product. DevOps, operations, they all fall into engineering, because it's all related to engineering, right? So question to the audience. What do you think the company would outsource?
Technical product and engineering.
Okay.
Anything they can do without risks and with profit.
All right. Will they outsource sales and marketing?
If this is not the core function, they can.
They may not outsource the engineering too, if that's their core product.
Well, I mean, they may not. They may do everything in house, which is but.
They don't sell and marketing the final product. But they can sell and marketing their own staff, their own technical management, their engineer.
What about strategic part?
Let's say never.
They can do everything.
Well, and never ever, because if you start outsourcing strategic vision, it's a completely different type of cooperation. It's a co-development, co-ownership, but it's not outsourcing. You know what's interesting is with sales and marketing, usually they'd like to outsource this, but not necessarily those vendors would like to take it for outsourcing, because this is quite a painful thing. At Softserve, we had a couple interesting projects when our partners, clients were going to us and we'd like to give you marketing stuff to outsource, and we said is there anything else we can help you with? Because really, this is extremely painful, and you never know what you're going to get. And definitely technical product management and engineering. Well, we're already all there. So, and this is the other part that can be outsourced. And, but, sorry. What happens if the organization, well, let's say, well, like Hewlett-Packard, decides to outsource, right? So what do they have to create? So what happens behind the scenes? Usually, it's not that easy that they just come to you and say, like, we need to, like, 5 Python developers. Well, that's what you start seeing. But in fact, they are building their whole giant organization on their side to support the outsourcing. All right? So we have some in-house engineering organization. We have some product management direction. Again, I'm not depicting here other departments. They exist, but they do not influence that much this whole stream here. So we have Director of Engineering, and I know that for many of you, Director of Engineering is the main contact point, right? You report to. You have some outsourcing manager. I know that there's some, I don't know how about other companies, but it's also sometimes we even have people whose position is Softserve manager, namely, literally, like written like that. Moreover, before you have user stories in Jira, somebody has to put them in there, which is product manager, business analyst, an enormous amount of other people just to give you one thing, to give the fuel to power that team, right? And now the question is that what you wanted to have? Because if you go to outsourcing, you named that one of the things that you want to have a cost reduction. Okay, you have a cost reduction, but look how many, well, those people are not cheap, right? And wages in the United States for Director of Engineering can be like 120 at least, thousand per year, which is very, very expensive. And same for outsourcing manager, and product managers are probably the most expensive people. And they change companies like crazy, so keeping them in one company, it's too complicated. So that's not an easy one. So what's then? So now we run in the situation when the outsourcing support cost is higher than you pay for the team. So you have to spend more resources on your internal team. I mean, those that powers that offshore team, than actually outsourcing team itself. And then you question yourself: is that what I wanted? Is that what I came for to this company? Is that really what I expected from outsourcing, really? And there's a huge trend now in the world called tired of outsourcing, really, because companies, especially if you go to Asia countries, they said, oh, it's like, I'm sick and tired managing those folks. Whatever I tell them, they do it wrong. And it's not only like people would think about this is about India. Well, believe me, if you go and read reviews about Ukrainian companies, Polish, Slovakian, well, you'll find a lot of interesting stuff there and what people say. So people get tired. They want to switch to some new model. And you can offer them this, what we call a solution approach, right? We can do this other way. Why can't we build this whole organization on our side? Well, I think that most people say like, well, thanks, Cap. Well, this should have been done like that. But there are challenges. Good example is, well, let's say, I hope you're all gonna have enough money to build the house near the lake. Your business runs very well, and you decide, I'm gonna build a house near the lake. I already have the land. I have an idea in my mind, and I'm employing the architect, not the software architect. I'm never let those folks build a house. Build a house. I'm employing like a real architect and workers and say, build me a house. And they ask like, what kind of house? Like, fancy, stylish, nice, and convenient. That's it. Okay, good. Then the question is, will you trust that person? Excuse me?
Sorry, the quality attributes you give them.
Well, that's it, but it's like, well, that's how strategic people work. Well, you may say like, I want to jump from a house, like walk and jump to the lake. That's the feature. That's what I want. Or maybe some other crazy stuff. I want a helicopter pad. Well, even I would never have a helicopter, but it's going to be there. But it's like very generic. So you don't speak about how you want to organize your electricity supply, how many wall sockets you're going to have on your walls, windows, other stuff. You want to have fancy, nice, cool house. You outsource this because you can actually take all those wood logs and other stuff, jigsaws, and make it yourself. Well, you can actually employ the team of workers and work with them. Would be the perfect, because what they do is what you do, and basically you get exactly what you need. But you decided to outsource this. Question is, when would you trust an architect to work in that way, when you just say your idea and you would rely 100% that he will build the thing that will satisfy you?
After the first result, which satisfies me, when you heard
With the
Well, after the first result, you're going to burn it.
Actually, no. Reference.
when I hear
Well, that's the closest thing. But this one moment when your tastes and vision matches. If I know the person who has the same taste in housing as I do, well, most likely I would outsource to that person. If I see that the person is competent enough in building houses near the lake because that's what they are doing for a living, most likely I would go with that. So now question is, because people ask me that outsourcing in product management in outsourcing isn't possible because we don't know what client wants. We don't know what vision is. Then we don't have a product management outsourcing. But if we do, we have it. Again, it's all like thanks cap stuff, but there's a very important thing. You have to get connected to product management team, strategic one, at client side. And now, you can only get connected to them if you speak same language with them. Not only not talking about German or English, but we speak about like same terminology, same ideas, and same product vision. They would connect to you if you know the market. They would connect to you if you know the stakeholders, the competitors, and other things. And in fact, you can connect directly to executive management to report to them from an outsourcing organization. And we have those cases already. I will be talking about them later. So, and of course, this whole structure is more efficient and cheaper. And it doesn't make people feel tired of outsourcing because they throw ideas on the table. You give them like a preliminary design. They say, okay. Well, the other thing is, you may throw like design one by another, but if they don't like it, they will not work. They will not let you work in that model. So you have to be either successful from the first try or from the second try. Otherwise, you're not going to go any further. And it's a way more effective model. Yes, Mark? Yeah.
This model, if the product manager is connected with product management team on client side, then he's probably either hired or something. He's reporting to head of product management, head of product. Then what does he has to do with the vendor's organization?
Well, remember this presentation delivered by Mohammed, mini CEO. Same thing. So you become somehow not only as a pure product manager, you also become at Softserve. We now have this direction called solution manager. So you have enormous amount of services within your company. I hope you all have. And you have access to them. It's not that the guy from here comes to you and says, where are your 3 Java developers, seniors, for tomorrow? You decide you need them or not. If you don't need them, if you brought them because you need it, but you decided that you don't, you drop them. It all comes about. I'm not saying like specifically about developers because this is the resource management is responsibility for project manager. But You tell the project manager, you know what? We have to have a release by that, with this, and that feature. If 5 Java developers is what you need, then go and find them.
But I mean, in that case, do you still work for Softserve or for the client?
I am the client at Softserve site. Yes, Taras.
Do you own the budget? I mean, what are the KPIs? Because now, if you decide whether it should be 3 Java developers, seniors, or middle level, then you, in order to do this decision, you have to manage the budget, right?
I understand the question, and the answer is yes in most cases. I know the project budget. Because I communicate not only to these people, but also, I didn't put that many arrows, but I have connection to the sponsor. And sponsor tells me, like, you have $1 million, and this is what we expect for this. I can burn the whole million and create, okay, I can buy pizza for the whole company. Well, and what? If that will solve the problem of the client, no problem, that's fine. But I'm deciding if I need, and I'm working in a pair with project manager, of course, it's a complementary pair. Do we need 6 senior engineers or 10 juniors and 2 intermediates? I don't know, maybe. So working with, but again, this is not the question that ultimately I'm focused in. I'm focused in on putting the right scope in right budget and creating this, I'm not going to say MVP in particular, but sufficient solution without the surplus perfection. Because as Muhammad said, perfection kills. And there's no limit for perfection. So this is my goal. I see lots of questions coming. Folks, by the way, we're doing good with the time, but I really like your questions, and I know that they won't stop by, I don't know what time, but if you can move on, please keep your questions, and we will have like open tables, we will have breakout sessions, and we will have some time at the end of the presentation. But I really like answering your question because it starts igniting the stuff here. All right? Sorry. Yeah, it's easy to draw a diagram, but it's not that easy to implement it. And sometimes it looks not as you expect this to be. So let's take a look on the journey that we did at Softserve to get there. And the journey didn't start 2 years ago. It didn't start like 5 years ago. It started like way earlier. When we started to do one of our first projects that we did in the form of fixed cost, where we took the, first of all, only specifically engineering ownership. So not that client tells us, this is what you have to use that framework, this specification, that's like, we start to take ownership of the technical solution. When you release it, you have nothing, you have no single line of code, and you draw it from the ground. You prepare the architecture, and you grow it. So back in 2004, 2005, me and Roman Kolachak, we completed a very interesting project, a fixed cost one, fixed budget. So we had this budget, we knew we control it. Now let's have some solution that will satisfy. And we made it. So we learned a huge lesson of that. That first of all was like credibility, that we can do it. We can do it. Next huge project that came to Softserve was in 2010 when we started working with Hewlett-Packard. It was a security project when the Hewlett-Packard came to us and just was like relatively tiny spec and was a simple word like, go do it. And we made it in time and budget, and we also took not only like this, because in 2005 we had at least UI mockups in place, right? So here was nothing. So we've been creating UI, building it, creating the deployment strategy, creating the release packages. There's like different options, right? Like S, M, L, XL, and other stuff. This is what also Mohammed was talking about. So we were responsible for that. Sorry. Then we start doing consulting. Consulting, when you start consulting other companies on how to do software development, specifically product development, from a technical side, of course, you start like feeling what pains those companies they have. They start feeling what the problems they have, and they start correlating, and you find out that the problems are the same. They only differ, only brands are different. And finally, in 14 and 15, we started to do full product management and solution management for quite famous players on the market. So you see, it's a like 10 years journey. And I see people in the room here who've been with us and who are with us, who help us go there. So it wasn't like an easy one. Okay, very specific case study. I'm not going to name the company that we do this, just as a point of, we have to keep some secrets. But the preconditions to the successful launch. Okay, I want to work with the company in we call it new model, when I'm going to have product management, solution management on our side, and they will make all those, they play those mini CEO roles and so on. So sometimes it's hard to convince that you're able to do this. But so, question to the audience, what are the preconditions you think that you can launch this successfully?
Client has to be ready for it?
Could be. Client has to be ready, definitely, because if they look on you as an outstaffing partner, well, it will be too complicated. But
you have to be ready to take the responsibility.
Awesome. Well, absolutely. You have to have enough expertise. Any other ideas?
You should think in the same way as your client. You should know a lot of things about client, about his area of work.
SME. Well, when you start engaging with the company, the first thing that you have to do is actually you have to get access to strategic product management executives. Those visionaries are the words. Because if you don't have access to the visionaries and you connect from the beginning, you connect to the engineering organization, well, you're just an extension of an engineering organization. You can speak product management language with them, but they don't care. They do not operate with the product meanings like, they operate with scope because they implement it, but they are not in charge of its forming, creation, and so on. So they don't have all those functions because they don't need, that's specific. You should have immediately an SME, a subject matter expert, on your side involved. Because if you don't have the role, who is able to be very competent in the domain the client works in, there's no trust. Remember that this example was house. If you employ somebody who is very good in building office buildings, cool like this, and he never built the house near the lake, but apparently this office looks cool, so maybe who knows, maybe he will be successful and maybe not, because they will build you a concrete foundation and giant enormous glass and concrete stuff near the lake in the middle of green woods. So maybe you don't need this, so you don't trust this person. And very important stage, and I know how many of you are being involved in the pre-sale stages. See? So very important that this product manager, the subject matter expert, is involved on the pre-sale stage when you start engaging. Not that in fact somebody runs to the room, we have a deal, can you try product management here? I said, well, depends how you sold it. 5 Java developers as usual. Okay. So no way. I mean, okay, there is a way, but sometimes it doesn't pay off. Okay. So we start working in new model, and we have a couple interesting problems that usually people comply being resolved. First of all, full engineering is at Softserve, so you can really make a decision what technical solution you can apply, and thus, I know this is very important for people who work outsourcing here, you can easily staff people, because if you decide what technology you're going to pick up, you can take a look on the market, and if a Go developers are very expensive and you have plenty of Python developers, well, if it still can be implemented on Python, you better go there. Yes?
But it is a sleepy path, I believe, because you are acting not in the best interest of your customer, because probably he doesn't have a belief that he will stay with Softserve forever, and he will want to hire own developers. And for his market, the technology you selected is not the best choice, and this happens almost on every project.
And that's a very good remark. That's a very good question. Well, here's the trick. You make a decision. So why we call this? Why in product management there is a maybe product manager is not mostly is not responsible for like a technology selection, but somehow he's in charge because it influences the product, especially if you speak about technical product manager, because it influences, it might differ things. But so you have to convince, again, your customer, your partner, that this is the best way to do. And sometimes they need just a solution. And we had the cases when they say, really, we don't that care. We care about technology unless you use something, I know, like very, very fancy. But if you use quite generic technologies, it's just a question like go with Java or .NET, or something like that, or Python or Java or Python or Ruby. So they really don't care, because in a month they will have to show something to their investors. If they force you to go with Scala and you don't have Scala developers, so they won't get anything. And yes, they force the thing they like, but in the fact they don't get anything. And you sit in front and you say, okay, here's the backlog. I'm a technical product manager. Here's the architect near me sitting. So together we tell you that if you go with this on Python, you're going to have it in a month. If you go with this on Scala, well, good luck with that. And that's it. So it's a business. So you just giving options. It doesn't mean that you tell that I'm not going to do this. It's just you giving options. And if they say, okay, you know what? Okay, we can shift it for 3 months, but just find those Scalas. Okay, let's do. But that's you're right. So this is the case when you have to maneuver quite well. That's why, as I said, the word management is in a position title. Second thing is improved cross communication. Because usually we know that the problem is that when the client starts talking to the development team about some product-related or domain-related things, they make those poker faces. And it's like they kind of like, yeah, we understand. Any questions? Silence. Oh, no questions. It's like everything clear. And then when they turn off the phone, what the hell is this? Well, let's wait for the user stories. Okay, let's wait. So when the technical product manager, because of his commitment where the product should go or not go, where we have the release in a week or in 3 weeks, there's any more things like that. So he's committed now, and he handles this communication. And with the customer, it's a totally different language with the customer. So if I don't understand what they say as a point of business domain, then I don't know what I'm doing there. And then I can translate this. I come to engineering team because, like Mohammed said, now I'm on the other side. I'm coming as a customer and explaining to them, but in a way, easy language, because of my technical background, what do they have to do? Right? So this is a much better cross communication. So, and the third thing, well, I didn't expect the third thing to appear, but it appeared somehow. You know, people like working more in product companies than in outsourcing. And when they have this ability to choose the technology, to maneuver within the project, when they have a flexibility of these decisions they make, they were telling like, we feel like we're working in a product company. And they were really passionate of the things they do. So the employee satisfaction was very high. Sometimes not that high because they had to stay overnight. Then it decreases, but in the morning it goes back because they work for the product company. And, well, no project with no issues. If no issues, then it's something might be wrong or we're doing nothing. So first of all, the first issue we encountered is a right stakeholders identification, which means that who is the main guy on the client side. Example, we work with the chief product manager and he tells you do this is my backlog, this is my vision. And he is or she is, in fact on the project I'm going to talk about, she's the leader, she's in charge of everything. But here comes CIO and CIO says we have to do intermediate release in 6 months. Just because you cannot do 18 months project in the one pass. Even it's agile, we have iterations, but you know, there's iterations, but said, I want to have some logically completed parts in 6 months. And then we say, like, we go back to the product owner and say, you know what, this guy told us to do this. He must be kidding. And so on. And we have to follow this guy because in fact it happens that COO is the sponsor. And we have to follow product manager because product manager, she's the power. So, and if you don't pay attention in time, whom to follow, or you don't clear this, you might be doomed, because either of the parties, in either case, you will get something that it doesn't satisfy the other party. Not that many people know how to design and build the router or switch on a very low level. Some people say, I'm going to be a product manager, I'm going to be a product manager. For what project? A networking project. Okay, can you draw me like 7 layers OSI model and explain me what happens on the second layer? And where you have, on which layers you have a redundancy stuff and so on. Is that what product manager is supposed to know? I want to manage. Well, okay, fine, good. The other thing is the developers, they think that, okay, user story has to explain everything. But it won't explain you like very elementary, very basic things like that IP address, IPv4 is in fact 32 bits of information instead of the string that is separated with 3 dots. Sometimes you see this in database still storing like that. So this is the huge problem, and if you switch to the model when you want to have solution management, you will face it immediately. With that one project, this is what I call satisfaction curve. So it all started quite well. Technical product management is involved in the pre-sale. It starts to develop. We show the initial mock-up, the product design. Client is happy because, oh my God, they're gonna give a solution to us. They don't ask about like what to do. They don't ask about to draw the user. They just took this one-page document and they run it with it. This is awesome. We love you. Well, with the first milestone, things start change. Well, the case is, it's not only, remember, it's not only like your fault. It's always both parties. It's too high expectations from the client and underestimation from Softserve side and or vendor side. So first milestone fails. And amazingly, the second milestone fails because that's not easy. And the satisfaction does a very deep dive. And it goes below the level when the client starts to think, oh gosh, I would better hire somebody else. I need to change the vendor. And the case, why this happens? Well, I wouldn't surprise you, but it will always happen. Only the question is how you manage this. You have to be prepared for that, and you have to prepare your client for that. So you would never have, well, if you have this, even more like exponential, something is wrong. Somebody is lying to you. It's always like that because this is the normal, this is behavior of human psychology. Team was working hard, so we start gaining knowledge. we start gaining the domain knowledge. Even like I have a master's degree and scientific degree in telecommunications and networking. And this project was related deeply to the networking and security. Still was too complicated. And you cannot play a role of every single, you cannot like take a piece of your brain and load it immediately in the developers. So it takes time to share the knowledge. We were forced with the time, we were under extreme time pressure. The other thing that the client wasn't really understanding how the development works, software, even there was a software company and people with software background. And there's a very famous proverb saying like something and into production. This was like that. They thought like we're gonna do this and it's gonna immediately appear in production. That's what their expectation was. Wasn't like that in reality. With the third milestone, when the things settle, this was extremely successful release. Well, finally we completed what we had to complete. And moreover, we started to be very proactive. We've been proactive since the beginning, but you know, the fails, they kill the proactivity. So you cannot be proactive if you have the depth of 1.5 months things that you have to do, right? Because if you come to the client and say like, let's do this. Okay, but you know, go and finish what you promised to do first. But now, it started to recover, and start to go better and better, and we switched to continuous delivery model, and it's successfully moving on. And that's all I have. Whew. So if you have any questions, we still have like let's say 3 minutes. But remember, we are cutting your lunchtime. Yes, Martin.
Okay, I want to continue this discussion, this tricky, slippery road. So, if you're working for Softserve, but you're reporting to strategic product management on client side, and you see that the next task by strategic product management actually sets the stage that Softserve isn't best vendor in this. What do? Do you still work with Softserve, or you go find another vendor who's better in that technology or something?
Well, that's the winning questions for today, I guess. Okay. Well, if I'm on that other side and I see the vendor that is failing, there's emotional way and like really the professional way. Emotional way, and on that diagram, the CEO of the company was strongly saying like, fire that vendor. Fire Softserve. We hate them. The CTO was saying, no, because if you fire Softserve, will be other vendor of same type. And we're going to be stepping on the same problems again and again. Because there are things that are inevitable on your way that you do implementation. And you actually, this is your mechanism as a vendor that you used to explain to me as a strategic product manager. You say this, okay, we're not a perfect organization, and the organization, there's no perfect organization. No limit for perfection. But this is what we passed. This somehow represents the learning curve, somehow. So we passed some learning. We have the best talents, so if you want, you can interview them if you want to speak to them. But in fact, they speak. So we know what to do. It's the question that we manage the things in the wrong way. And management is always on both sides. So I would counter-challenge. When I do a training on professional behavior, counter-challenge is a bad behavior. But here I would use it. I would say, will you find a vendor that is able to manage perfectly things? Be doing this in a bad way. Will you able to find a vendor who does this better? Will you able to do it better yourself, first of all, with the new vendor? And usually at that point, temperature calms down. People start talking more like, okay, how can we restructure that timeline? What can we do? Maybe we should shift something and so on. Maybe we should reorganize the releases. And other thing is, this happens if the chief strategic product manager on the side of the company is not fully relying on what technical product manager is saying. Because if technical TPM or product manager on the side of the vendor says, this release cannot be made any earlier than in 2 months. And they say, okay, in a month we have a conference, we have to present this. I say, oh, you know what? If you want to have this in this scope, not earlier than 2 months. And that's what I'm saying. You, as a product manager here, technical product manager, now we have to come to the conclusion. If they don't listen and they force you to do deep dive, and they will say, change the vendor. If you find the compromise, then you will actually recover from the deep dive and start climbing back again. I cannot answer your question on 100% because this is case by case. And those cases appear every single day and you probably know that. So we can talk about the particular cases maybe during this lunchtime open table, but well, professional ways is saying that being like true to yourself, and the answer is no answer to this question.
Do we have time for more questions?
Well, one more.
Okay, so the question is budget ownership. So if we have something outsourced, there is always conflict of interests. It's client interest and outsourcing vendor interest to get some additional benefits from this engagement. And at this point, maybe specifically in this case, maybe other cases that you could mention, where is the balance so that everybody is actually happy with this engagement, so that company, outsourcing vendor gets enough money and the product company gets their product.
The balance is in the case that you don't deviate too much of the reality. Like in this case, if you're being forced to do unrealistic things just because you are the vendor and you can do everything, it hurts both parties. I mean, so if the reality is that you cannot do this in 1 month, then this is the reality, and you have to tell the things as they are. And you stand in, and this is that tough, this is that mini CEO stuff, that you stand and you speak in front of the client saying like, it's impossible, I cannot arrange the backlog in a way that it can be built in a month. I spoke to my team, they cannot do that. Even if sometimes they say, what if I bring you like 50K more, will you do this? You said no, because this is the concurrency. You have to be able to explain this. So that's the balance.
And if we would speak about money engagement model, is that true that such model would work best with fixed bid projects, or maybe other like paying models would?
Well, you see, fixed bids, they are the easy ones, the easiest as a point of money management, because you have this already. You know the boundaries. But generally, it will work in a model when you have when the core organization, this who is like requesting the services, is open for money talks with you. And it doesn't have, for example, in this case, we've been working in the T&M mode, time and material. There's no fixed cost. There was no fixed cost, but we were telling them, like, this feature costs that many. This whole part of the backlog, if done in a way like that, this was my role as a technical program. If you align this way, will cost you that amount of money. If you cut it and realign it, well, it's a non-linear system. It will cost you this. So I give them options, and knowing the constraints, for example, they have conference, they have release, they have. Then I say, okay, you decide, you make a final decision, but as a technical product manager, this is what I give you as an input. So that's how it's going to work. So it doesn't have to be fixed cost. It has to be, you have to be very, very open for money talks. If you don't, no way. Okay, I think this is it. Thank you.